Welcome to the Dawg House. Have a listen as we take a look at life, love, and art in all its forms. Here's your host, the Rock Dog, Andrew Davis.
Well, now it is the Dawg House from my kitchen table. Hey there, it is the Rock Dog, Andrew Davis. My guest today is a singer-songwriter. He also owns his own record label. He hosts his own radio show, and I wouldn't be surprised if I found out he's directed a major motion picture. James Kasper is in the Dawg House.
Thanks for having me. I have not released a motion picture yet, nothing longer than 12 minutes, so I'll work on that.
So where are you from? Any cool stories from your childhood?
I was born in Victoria. I grew up on the west coast of the island in Ucluelet, and then moved on to Nanaimo for college and Victoria for university. And I spent most of my life on the island, other than a few excursions for further schooling and work. My childhood, well, I was basically an artsy, shy kid. My childhood consisted of a lot of playing road hockey in a cul-de-sac on the top of a hill where I lived, and cranking out the music from vinyl records out of my bedroom window while we played hockey. That was a big part of my childhood. And other than that, just discovering music in terms of listening to music. My mother played a lot of country music in the house growing up, and then I discovered hard rock and even a bit of metal. And so that was basically my childhood: music, road hockey, school.
Yeah, it sounds like the typical Canadian childhood. Hey, you've done a really cool project with your dad. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, my dad and I work on a web series called The Branch Manager, which is basically just him talking about reforestation and silviculture and all things trees, and me filming it and editing it and putting it out there into the social media world. So it's a fun project. It's a great way for him and I to spend time together, and a way for him to, in his retirement, talk about the stuff that he went to school for and worked in for so many years.
Yeah, they're neat little videos. I've watched a few of them. Who are your major influences?
My major influences, I tend to split those into different categories. So for songwriting, my influences are people like Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice, City and Colour, Blue Rodeo. My harmonica playing influences are people like James Cotton, Lester Butler from the Red Devils, Magic Dick from Jay Giles Band, Junior Wells, people like that. And vocally, I love the vocals of people like Colin Blunstone from the Zombies and Alan Parsons Project.
It's a question I like to ask, but what is your approach to songwriting?
My approach to songwriting usually revolves around a lyric that I get in my head, a phrase of some kind, either that just pops into my head or I hear somewhere or read somewhere, and then it just has a kind of ring to it that I think I could build a song around, or something that's just meaningful to me, and then I start building the song out of that one line. Usually the line itself suggests a melody inherently in my mind, and so then I start building it from there. So I know that's not really all that scientific, but that's kind of how it works for me.
Now, you're also in a band called Provinces, and I know with the COVID-19 it's kind of stalled things, but what's happening with the band?
Yes, Provinces is an interesting project. We've only been around for about a year and a half or so, I guess, with the 5 guys. And it's been a really fun project because it's very different. It's quite a departure from what I do as a solo artist. Provinces is all about energy on stage and fun and goofiness and variety. We combine roots rock and hip-hop. Our resident hip-hop rap guy, vocalist, is Mike Cooper, also known as Coop Deviants, and he's a phenomenal rapper and lyricist. So he brings that to the table in a big way, certainly on paper and on stage. And then the rest of the band kind of plays this roots rock, blues rock around that. And then I do sort of the remaining vocals. And so it's a really interesting, fun, unique project, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. Obviously, very different right now with no live shows, but we are going to be doing a show at the 39 Days of July festival that they're going to do just with no in-person audience, and so we're playing there July 4th. Just a live stream show, so that'll be fun. In the meantime, we've just been doing a lot of video projects and silly things. There's a lot of humor and what we think of as humor and goofiness in our band, and so we do videos that are maybe a little quirky.
Now, you have a unique record label, and I say that because when you sign an artist, they need to bring with them their charity of choice. So why is that so important to you?
Yes, Mighty Speck Records is a community record label here on Vancouver Island that I founded in 2012, and I took a hiatus from it from 2018 to just a couple months ago so that I could focus on my own album, so that I could record my own album and make that a priority. And so I was at about 90% finished recording my album, and decided that I would bring back the label. And, I'm glad I did. It's a great roster we have this year. And as with everything, a lot of things are on hold, certainly in terms of live performance. But yes, like you mentioned, there's a charity aspect to it. Every artist on the label is asked to associate themselves with and help raise awareness for a charity of their choice. Usually it's a Vancouver Island or BC charity. And it just makes the whole experience more rewarding and builds our network of community partners. And I really enjoy that aspect of the label.
So what do you think it's going to look like for artists moving forward out of COVID-19?
I think moving forward for musicians is going to be a little different. I think that we're coming back to normality very gradually over time, over the next year. And I think there's going to be probably a lot more of these live streamed concerts, even after we go back to normal, some sort of new normal. I think maybe musicians will look more at the whole package of how they present their music. I think a lot of artists tend to focus a little too much on just their live performance and forget about sort of the presentation side of it and the branding and the marketing side of it. And I think a lot of musicians just don't want to do that side of things, and fair enough. But there's certainly a lot that has to be done by someone, whether that's a manager or a label or the artists themselves, in order to really push yourself out there and take your career to the next level. But I think it's maybe forced musicians to think outside the box and think of different ways of being creative and different ways of performing. And I think that will benefit everyone in the long run.
What is a song you wish you had written?
I'd have to go with Try by Blue Rodeo. That's a song that really hit me when I was around 16, 17, when it first came out. And I just thought, wow, there's something special about this song. It was at the same time simple and magical. It just had this nuance and some sort of special quality that I couldn't quite put my finger on, and that was sort of part of the appeal. Very soulful, yet simple and emotive. There are other songs that I wish I had written, but that's the one that comes to mind first and foremost.
Okay, so we're going to play a little bit of a game here. I'm going to name some artists, and you give me, I'm going to name some artist or a word, and you give me a word that pops into your mind. Okay? Here we go. John Lennon.
John Lennon, I'm going to go with the word peace.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, poet.
Boy bands.
Boy bands. I don't really have much to say about boy bands. I guess there's a place for everything and everyone, and there's an audience for everyone. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Touring.
Touring, the word that comes to mind is challenging and yet rewarding. So I love the idea of being out on the road and waking up in a new city every day and meeting new people every day that you wouldn't have if you hadn't gone out on the road and gone to that city. So there's a real sense of adventure to touring that's exciting. There's kind of an adrenaline rush that goes along with touring. But at the same time, it can be draining, certainly at the independent level of the game. And it's hard work. It's hard work to set up a tour, and it's hard work to carry out a tour.
Those are all great answers, especially the one about the boy bands. Hey, how can people learn more about James Kasper and Mighty Speck Records?
People can check out Mighty Speck Records, all 20 artists, including myself, at mightyspeckrecords.ca. And we have a Facebook page, and myself, I have an Instagram page, which is at James Kasper Songs, Kasper with a K, and I have my own Facebook page as well. And I will be updating people over the course of the year as my album comes to completion, and I'm hoping to release that at the end of this year, at least to radio, to media, online, and then hopefully we'll be able to do a live show release in the first few months of 2021.
I'll look forward to hearing it once it comes out. Hey, James, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate this, man.
Thanks so much for having me on as a guest, Andrew, and thanks for everything you do in the media and music community.
We're going to wrap up the Dawg House today with a new single from James Kasper. It just came out. It is called How Blue Is Your Hell. It's a song that speaks to the times of isolation, patience, and the hope of moving forward amidst adversity. If you'd like to learn more about the Dawg House, just search out the Rock Dog Andrew Davis on Facebook.
Sometimes I don't know
listening to The Dawg House with Andrew Davis.